Hello, welcome to week 3. So, we have gone through the first 2 weeks getting used to our discussions in our classroom, and this week you can see we are finishing up on our trends. The trend that we're going to focus on this week is diversity and globalization. Diversity is a trend, but it has become laws a lot of places. So, we have the Equal Opportunity Law of 1968, with the addition to that law in 1991, and all of those things prevent us from discrimination. But diversity trend is taking us above compliance into appreciation. So yes, I have to make sure that I'm not being discriminatory in my practices, but how can I go above that? How can I appreciate the differences that we all have? Both external diversity, the things that we can see, the protected classes, our gender, our race, our age, that sort of thing, and our internal internal diversity, which we don't often talk about from an HR legal point of view, but in human resources and culture, it is probably our biggest point of discussion. How do our personalities match? How do our education levels match? How do our Big Five personality factors match, which is a common personality test used to see how you would mesh with your team. And these are honestly the diversity issues that cause us the most pain. I'm an extrovert, you're an introvert. How do we work together? You're a planner, I'm a doer. How do we function together? I'm an executive with a lot of experience and a lot of education. How do I connect to my line workers who may or may not have an education, and they may or may not have the same level of work experience? So that's internal diversity that most laws don't cover, but from a human resource perspective, cause us the most pain, and honestly they cause us the greatest outcomes as well, because when we have people coming from diverse backgrounds, both internal and external diversity, we get the best outcomes. We get higher profitability, we get higher engagement scores. Pretty much the whole entire workforce is a better place. But if it feels forced, it is a really uncomfortable, awkward place for employees to be. When like, we value diversity, and you look around and you're like, because we had Taco Tuesday once, we value diversity? That doesn't seem right. So that's a case of stated values and embodied values, which you might notice at your work as well. They say they do one thing, and then at work we're like, yeah, we don't actually do that. So that's one of the issues that we have with diversity. So we're going to talk about that, and then you have your first assignment. Yay! I know you guys are excited. It's our law assignment due Sunday night, so let's look a little bit at that. All right. Nope, not discussions. Assignments. So your assignment has 4 parts, as you can see here. Research an HR law at the state and national level. Explain the law and its history. So if you were looking at the FMLA law, Family Medical Leave Act, you would look at the national level and the Wisconsin level. If you live in another state, just please clarify, I'm doing this for the state of Arizona, the state of Washington, wherever you are, just so I don't mark you wrong. You're like, wait, this is the law, and I was looking at Wisconsin law. And then you are just going to talk about, this law was founded in this year at the national level, this year at the state level, or there might not be a state version. Some laws don't have a state version. Be careful here with the law that you choose. So I've had people in the past choose HIPAA, which is a law that employees do need to comply with. But if you're talking about for patients, it's not an HR law. If you're talking about for employees, so I work in human resources and you're ill, who can and can I not tell why you're ill, what's wrong with you, when you're going to be back, that sort of thing, then HIPAA would be an HR law. But if you're talking about patients, it does not count. If you're talking about safety standards for the building that you're building, that would not count. If you're talking about safety standards for keeping our employees safe, that would count. So if you're uncertain if the law you chose works, email me, maskalik@msoe.edu, or shoot me a text, 262-402-8702. I'd be happy to look it up. And let you know if that's a true HR law or not. And if you are struggling to figure out what are HR laws, look at that PowerPoint from week 1. It does have a bunch of laws in there that are pretty generic. So you might struggle with bullet 2. How is the law complied with at your company? Explain the policies, procedures, departments, processes. So if you pick the Equal Opportunity Act of 1968 as an example, you're probably going to be looking at your employee handbook to see what it says about your hiring, fairness, diversity practices. You're going to need to prove bullet 2. You can't just be like, my company does this. I'm going to need you to reference your employee handbook. It's okay if I can't see it, but I need you to at least reference it. Or personal communication is your other reference. So maybe your company doesn't have an employee handbook. Yikes. maybe you just have never seen it. So a personal communication would work as well, but I'm not just going to take your word on it for bullet 2 for you to get a 4.0 mastery. Bullet 3, was there a better way to exceed the legal requirements? Why might a company choose to exceed legal requirements for this law? So you pick the Equal Opportunity Act of 1968, and all your company has is the Equal Opportunity Employment Statement at the end of the handbook. That's just a legal blurb that you basically copy and paste into your handbook. So all they're saying that they do is compliance, and there's no policies or procedures in place to exceed that. Or meet it. Maybe you have an idea. Number 3 here is your opinion. The second part, why might a company choose to exceed legal requirement for this law? You can usually Google why would a company go above and beyond Equal Opportunity Act of 1968 and get some pretty good ideas. But number 3, I'm really looking for your opinion. Based on what you see, what else could be done to make it an even better experience? And then number 4, should the law be changed more or less stringent because of changing trends? Support your answer. So the Family Medical Leave Act is short-term leave, usually used for pregnancy or injury. It's being abused a lot, and it's come under fire that maybe it should be changed both ways. Some people say that it should be paid for maternity leave. Some people say it should be stricter for injuries. So that's what I'm talking about, more or less stringent. So Family Medical Leave Act guarantees you to come back to your job, but no pay is required. So maybe you're like, yeah, maybe we should have pay. Or maybe you're thinking we need a different system for doctor's notes to prove illness versus I just didn't want to come in today sort of things. Support your answer. I'm going to look for you to have, why do you think this is true? It can be from an example at your work. It can be from, so using the Federal Family Medical Leave Act, showing the outcomes that they're having in Europe for having 400 days of paid maternity leave, I think is what they have in one country. So those kinds of things. If you support with work, you're not going to need a reference because you're probably just remembering a situation. If you're supporting it from another country point of view or another company point of view, then obviously support your references. So the last points, please use APA formatting for your references. No required number of references or length, just document all researched ideas. Some of you are going to be able to do this assignment in a couple of pages. Some of you are going to take a little longer. Some of you are going to be using your work things and maybe just one document, your handbook and your memory, so you'll have less references. Others of you will go whole hog and have, a full page of references. There's no requirement. Just answer the full 4 bullets to the best of your requirements. And if you research something and then use that idea in your paper, put an in-text citation, so author, comma, year, right at the sentence that you use it. And then at the end of the paper, your full reference page. I really like headings, so I know what you were trying to answer when you were trying to answer it in assignments. So there is an APA way to reference your headings. I really just want to know what you were trying to answer with this section of your paper. I have had people that are like, oh yeah, I answered that on page 3, paragraph 2, and I go back in and reread it, and I'm like, I would never have guessed that that is what you were trying to answer this to. And usually it's because you're coming from an angle I hadn't considered, not that it's wrong. Sometimes it's wrong, but I just, the headings help me with grading, so at least I have an idea of what I should be looking at to grade component 2, component 3, component 4. So help me out to help your grading out. I would really appreciate it. I do have 2 sections of this class, over 35 of you, so ease in grading is always helpful. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Your discussion question on diversity is due Thursday morning by noon. I'm not sure if we have classmate responses required. Let's take a look real quick. Lots of clicks. No responses. So you just have to do your discussion post by Thursday before noon, and then your assignment is Sunday by midnight. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Blackboard, it can take as long as 5 to 10 minutes to upload, and it just tells me late. It doesn't tell me that you turned it in at 12:02 and you're only late by 2 minutes. It doesn't tell me if you turned it in at 10 o'clock the next night. It just says 1 day late. So if you don't want to lose your 10% for being late, don't cut it close and turn it in before your midnight Milwaukee time deadline of Sunday and noon on Thursday. All right, have a good week. I'm looking forward to seeing the laws that you guys write about in our diversity discussion, which is just what approach does your company take towards diversity, both stated and embodied ideas should be here. And that's that idea of what's written and then what's actually done. I look forward to talking with you guys this week. Bye.